It's getting windy out here. All right, guys, today's the day. So if you guys have been following me on social media lately, like within the past 4 days, you might notice that one of my images kind of went viral, and that was this one. So since then, you can guess what my most requested tutorial has been. Definitely how to shoot lightning. So today, I'm gonna try to shoot some more. We got some stuff that's got potential back here. That's why I came out here in the middle of nowhere to see if I can get some more lightning. I'm gonna use the drift method. Freaking incredible. Round F16 for that to get that sunburst. So even if I don't get anything though, I'm still gonna go ahead and show you guys, talk to you guys, give you some tips, give you some tips and tricks on how I'm doing this and best practices for shooting lightning. All right, so first, let's go grab a few things that we're gonna need to get set up and some few things that I'm gonna need to show you that are gonna behoove you for your lightning capturing. And of course, I'm gonna do some time lapses while we're killing time, because there's some cool clouds right there. So let's go grab that stuff and get set up.
All right, listen.
All right, so we're all set up. I'm doing a quick time lapse of this while we're waiting on some stuff. But let's talk about some pre-lightning shoot necessities. What's up, guys? Future Brent here. So I just have been editing the video and I decided to make a cheat sheet for you guys so that in addition to this video, you can take this with you. And I'm gonna put the link for that in the description below, so make sure you check that out. I'll have it on my blog. You can take this with you. It'll have all the information that's in this tutorial. And I just figured that would be an easier way so that people who don't have like YouTube Red or something, you could take this with you wherever you go. So hopefully that helps, and let's get back to the regular tutorial. All right, so the first thing you're gonna need to know about lightning is, where is it? So the best way to do that obviously is through radar tracking, weather tracking, just using weather.com or WeatherBug or whatever it is on your phone or your computer. But another great thing aside from that, that's for just tracking the storms in general. But another great thing outside from that is use a lightning strike map. And if you just go to Google and type in lightning strike map, or you know what, I'll put the link in the description below for the one that I use. That will show where the lightning is, and that'll help you figure out where you need to go. It'll also show you thunder propagation too, which is kind of cool. And there's variant colors. The darker the color, the fresher the lightning strike is, the lighter the color, the older the lightning strike is. So you can kind of see what's happening, and that's pretty accurate. So check that out, and that'll help you plan where you need to go. Okay, next thing, before you get into all the camera stuff, is getting there and going there. So some common sense things, to me at least, because I travel so much, is full tank of gas, rain gear. Yeah, be prepared for nasty weather, and have some food, water, you know, that kind of stuff in your car. That way, if you need to wait it out and if you're in a good spot and you need to wait it out and let the storm pass you, you can have things to pass the time. And I like to eat to pass the time, so I have a lot of food in my car. All right, so now that you're ready to look for storms, a couple of other things is the cell size. So if you have a choice, and whether you don't always have a choice, in fact, most of the times you don't, but if you do, you would like to look for these smaller storm cells like this. These are real concentrated. They're real easy to move around. They don't take a lot for you to get around them, and the lightning is more concentrated. When you have big cells like this, those are much harder to outrun. Those are much harder to get where you need to be without getting rained on. And those are much more widespread with their lightning strikes. So in a perfect scenario, you would definitely like to go after those smaller isolated cells. All right, so you're all ready to roll. All that's good to go. You're out here, you're where you want to be. What do you need to do for your camera stuff? So if it's daytime like this, so it's 8 o'clock right now, sunset is about 8:30, a little later. at my latitude. So if it's bright like it is here, then you're gonna need ND filters. So you have something like that, and we have a couple of different types. So we can get something like this. This is a square 10-stop ND filter, and this is gonna help you get those long exposures you're gonna need, because you're gonna need longer exposures. All right, if you don't have square filters, then you can get some round filters. Round filters are much cheaper and most of the time easier to deal with. And for this scenario, they work pretty much the same. So here is a round filter, and they're just gonna attach that to the front, and you can get 6-stop or 10-stop or 3-stop or 2-stop, or you can stack them, whatever you need to do to get the exposures that we're gonna talk about. But you may need filters until it gets dark. All right, so everything's ready to roll. You got your filters if you need them. So let's talk about settings. Obviously, you're gonna wanna be in manual mode. You're going to have control. And by the way, this works the same for phones. I know a lot of you guys out there shooting on phones, so everything goes the same with phones, including the filters. I've got plenty of videos on how to do filters with phones and even shooting lightning with phones, so go check out my smartphone playlist if you want to find that stuff. But it doesn't matter what you're shooting with as long as you have manual control. Okay, so the goal here is to leave the shutter open long enough to where you can catch lightning within that exposure time. And what I have found is anything from like 1 second minimum all the way up to 30 seconds if it's super dark. So some of these Milky Way lightning meteorite shots that I got during the meteor shower, those were closer to 30 seconds. Those were like 20-second exposures, but that was obviously like Milky Way pitch dark. Something like this setting, you're gonna want somewhere between 2 and 5 seconds. So whatever filter you need to put on there, if it's a 3-stop or a 6-stop or a 10-stop, those are kind of the most common, then you need to do whatever you need to do to get that with the filter to get to a 2 to a 5 second exposure. So in this light, that's definitely going to be your lowest ISO. In my case, with the DSLRs, it's going to be ISO 100. With my smartphone, it's going to be ISO 50. And then whatever your aperture needs to be, again, to help get that exposure time. So you may have to actually up your aperture to a smaller diameter. Good call. Lady behind the camera just reminded me about focusing. And if it's super dark, you're definitely going to want to set it to infinity. If you have something wide open like this, you're still going to probably want to set it to infinity anyways, and then lock it on infinity. So make sure your manual focus, once you get it set, is locked to manual. So take it out of autofocus. Okay, that brings up one more tip about when I was talking about the storm cell size and where you want to be and all that stuff. Obviously, you don't want to be too close to lightning because, you know, it's kind of like deadly. So what you want to do is, what I find is probably between 10 to 15 miles away if you can swing that. If you have to be further, obviously that's better for your health, that's worse for your cameras, so then you can start doing longer lenses. So this shot right here I actually did with my 1-400, and it was somewhere between 200 and 300 millimeters. I'll put it up when I check the EXIF data at home. The problem that's going to introduce is camera shake overall, because the 1-400 is a big lens, and the longer your lens gets, the longer your focal length gets, the more camera shake you're going to introduce by leaving your shutter open at a longer time. So in order to have a longer lens, you're going to want a shorter exposure time. And I did, for that shot, I did like 30 something shots stacked together for a time lapse, and each one of those shots was a maximum of 1 second. All right, so we're starting to figure out all the settings. Now we need to talk about time lapses. So the best way, if you don't have one of those stupid fancy triggers that are really expensive, they're called lightning triggers. I don't know, you can look them up, but they're fancy. Only cool people have them, and I'm not in that club yet. So what I do is I do time lapses, because as you guys know, I love my time lapses anyways, and that's going to allow me to do a lot of things. So first, that's going to allow me to capture as much lightning as possible, and then it's going to allow me to blend them in post together. So I'm not going to go over that in this tutorial because I've already done that tutorial. So if you want to know how to blend multiple images and stacking multiple lightning images together to get a shot like this, check out this tutorial here. So real quick, before we get into time lapses and all that stuff, when you're still figuring out exposure, especially like I said, if it's still bright out like this, you're gonna wanna underexpose by at least a stop or two. And the reason is the lightning is going to be very bright and it's going to be lost if your exposure is either spot on or too overexposed. So you're gonna wanna underexpose, and then when the lightning strikes, it will make a more natural looking scene. And that's until it gets super dark. When it gets super dark, I still even like to underexpose by about a stop, especially if I'm doing city lightning like this. So the light pollution introduced by the cities in shots like that are too bright. And even at nighttime, I don't like all of that light coming up from the city. So I still am gonna lean towards underexposing if I'm doing cityscape with lots of light pollution. And because when the lightning strikes, it's gonna be even brighter too, and that's just a lot of extra light. So always with lightning, it's better to underexpose just a little bit, which is kind of opposite of how you would normally shoot, but this is lightning and it gets bright. So unless it's pitch dark outside and you're doing astro stuff with the lightning, it's better to underexpose a little bit. All right, so the last thing, we've got all that figured out. We've got our composition, our exposure, everything. We're ready to roll. The lightning's going crazy. Now we want to set up our time lapse, the intervals. You want an interval that is just over your exposure time. So what I mean by that is if you want, if you have a 5-second exposure, then you want a 6 to a 7-second interval. That's going to give you a 1 to 2 seconds in between each shutter actuation. And that's going to minimize the amount of time that you can miss a lightning strike. So we want as little time as possible between each shot. All right, so how do we do the time lapses? There's a few ways. So first of all, if you don't know what a time lapse is and you want to learn, I've conveniently done a tutorial about that as well. So here's a basics of time lapse tutorial. You can check that out up in that region. So there's a number of ways that I'm going to do this. I have a Canon 5D Mark IV, which happens to have a built-in intervalometer, so I'm going to use that. If I'm shooting on my stupid 1DX2, which I'm vlogging on right now, which does not have an intervalometer, then I'm going to use one of these things. And these, so this is the Alpine Labs Pulse, and its baby brother, the Spark. So both of those are kind of time-lapse triggers. They're Bluetooth, they connect to your phone. They're very great. I've done videos on both of them, so you can check those out if you're interested in figuring out what they do and how they can help make your photography more awesome. And then if you're on your phone, you can use a third-party app like Lapse It Pro or something, or some of the phones, some of the cooler phones these days have time-lapse mode built into them. I think maybe LG does. Anyways, but you can do time-lapses on your phone too, and that'll help a lot. All right, so those are my tips on shooting lightning. Just remember that those tips are all kind of basic, and the lighting conditions can change, and they're gonna be different for everybody. So just play around with your settings, get your stuff figured out, use those ballpark settings that I gave you as a good starting point, and then do what you need to do to get that right setting for your lighting. All right, so we're definitely not getting any lightning here, and I'm done with my time lapses, so I'm gonna wrap it up and go home and have some nice peach cobbler. So if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I went over concerning the settings or how to shoot lightning or any of that stuff, make sure you leave those in the comments below and I'll definitely answer them. And if you like this video and you want to see more, definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel. I've got new videos every Tuesday and Friday. And if you're watching this in the next 2 weeks, or rather I should say until August 10th, 2018, then don't forget I'm doing a giveaway right now, and I'm giving away an awesome new Benro tripod. So go check out the video here for that info and win yourself a new tripod to take some awesome lightning photos. And if this stuff helped you out, definitely make sure you hit that like button because it really helps me out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.